Hello, my lovelies. Are you ready for chapter 47? It's called No Choice. Dino's watching. He's listening too. Come on closer, Dino. That's a good boy. Despereaux stood trembling on the steps. The thread was most definitely gone. He could not hear it. He could not... Are you being grumbly? You want to get closer? Come on, sit. That's a good boy. He wanted to cuddle. He should have tied it to himself when he had the chance, but it was too late now. Despereaux's dire situation suddenly became quite clear to him. Ooh, wow, that was a sneeze. He was a 2-ounce mouse alone in the dark, twisting dungeon full of rats. He had nothing but a sewing needle with which to defend himself. He had to find a princess, and he had to save her once he found her. It's impossible, he said to himself. I just can't do it. He stood very still. I'll go back, he said, but he didn't move. I have to go back. He took a step backward. But I can't go back. I don't have a choice. I have no choice. He took one step forward and then another. No choice, his heart beat out to him as he went down the stairs. No choice. No choice. No choice. At the bottom of the stairs, the rat Botticelli sat waiting. And when Despereaux stepped from the last stair onto the dungeon floor, Botticelli called out to him as if he were a long-lost friend. Ah, said Botticelli, there you are, exactly. I've been waiting for you. Despereaux saw the dark shape of a rat, that thing that he had feared and dreaded for so long, finally stepping out of the gloom and come to greet him. Welcome, welcome, said Botticelli. Despereaux put his paw on the needle. Ah, said Botticelli, you are armed. How charming. He put his paws up in the air. I surrender. Oh, yes, certainly, exactly. I surrender. I, said Despereaux. Yes, said Botticelli, you. He took the locket from around his neck. He began to swing it back and forth, back and forth. Please go on. I don't want to hurt you, said Despereaux. I just need to get by you. I am on a quest. Really, said Botticelli. How extraordinary. A mouse on a quest. Back and forth went the locket. A quest for what? A quest to save the princess. The princess, said Botticelli. The princess, the princess. Everything seemed to be about princesses these days. The king's men were down there searching for her, you know. They didn't find her. That goes without saying. But now a mouse has arrived and he is on a quest to save the princess? Yes, said Despereaux. He took a step to the left of Botticelli. How inspiring, said Botticelli. He lazily took a step to his right, blocking Despereaux's way. Why the hurry, little friend? Because, said Despereaux, I have to... Yes, you have to save the princess, exactly. But before you save her, you must find her, correct? Yes, said Despereaux. What if, said Botticelli, what if I told you that I know exactly where the princess is? What if I told you that I could take you to her directly? Said Despereaux. His voice shook. His paw on the needle trembled. Why would you do that? Why would I do what? Why would I help you? Why, to be of service, to do my part for humanity, to aid in the saving of a princess. But you are a rat, said the Botticelli. Yes, I am a rat, and I see by your trembling that you are greatly exaggerating the rumors of evil nature that have reached your oversized ears. Yes, said Despereaux. If, said Botticelli, swinging the locket back and forth, if you allow me to be of assistance, you will be doing me a tremendous favor. Not only can I do a great deal of good for you and for the princess, but my actions will help to dispel this terrible myth of evil that seems to surround rats everywhere. Will you let me assist you? Will you let me assist myself and my kind? I don't know. Reader, was it a trick Of course it was. Botticelli did not want to be of service. Far from it. You know what Botticelli wanted. He wanted others to suffer. Specifically, he wanted the small mouse to suffer. How best to do that? Why, take him directly to what he wanted, the princess. Let him see that what his heart desired, and then, and only then, faced with what he loved, would Despereaux die. And at that end of it all, how tasty the mouse would be, seasoned with hope and tears and flour and oil and thwarted love. My name, little friend, is Botticelli Rimorso, and you may trust me. You must trust me. Will you tell me your name? Despereaux Tilling. Despereaux Tilling, take your paw from your weapon and come with me. Come, said Botticelli. Let go of your needle. Take hold of my tail. I will lead you to your princess, I promise. What, reader, in your experience, is the promise of a rat worth? That's right. Zero, zip, nada, goose egg. But I must ask you this question, too. What else was there for Despereaux to hold on to? You are right again. Nothing. And so the mouse reached out, and he took a hold of the rat's tail. Chapter 48, on the tail of a rat. Have you ever held on to the tail of a rat? At best, it is an unpleasant sensation, scaly and cold, similar to holding onto a small, narrow snake. At worst, when you are dependent upon a rat for your survival, and when a part of you is certain that you are being led nowhere except to your death, it is a hideous sensation indeed to have nothing but a rat's tail to cling to. Nonetheless, Despereaux held on to Botticelli Rimorso, and the rat led him deeper and deeper into the dungeon. Despereaux's eyes had, by this point, adjusted quite well to the darkness, though it would have been better if they had not, for the things he saw made him shiver and shake. What did he see? He saw that the floor of the dungeon was littered with tufts of fur, knots of red thread, and the skeletons of mice. Everywhere there were tiny white bones glowing in the darkness, and he saw in the dungeon tunnels through which Botticelli led him the bones of human beings too, grinning skulls and delicate finger bones rising up out of the darkness and pointing towards some truth best left unspoken. Despereaux closed his eyes, but it didn't help. He saw, as if his eyes were still open wide, the bones, the tufts of hair, the knots of thread, the despair. Ha! Exactly, Botticelli laughed as he had negotiated the twists and turns. Oh, yes, exactly. And if what was in front of Despereaux was too horrible to contemplate, what followed behind him was perhaps even worse. Rats, a happy, hungry, vengeful parade of rats, their noses up in the air, sniffing. Mouse, rang out one rat joyfully. Oh, yes, mouse, agreed another, but something else too. Soup, called another rat. Yes, soup, the others agreed. Blood, sang a rat. Blood, they all agreed together. And then they sang, here, mousy, 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 here, little mousy. Botticelli called out to the other rats. Mine, he said. This little treasure is all mine, gentlemen and ladies. Please, I beg you, do not infringe on my discovery. Mr. Rimorso, said Despereaux. He turned and looked behind him and saw the rats, their red eyes and their mouths smiling. He closed his eyes again and kept them closed. Mr. Rimorso, he shouted. Yes, said Botticelli. Mr. Rimorso, said Despereaux, and he was crying now. He couldn't help it. Please, the princess. Tears, shouted the rats. We smell tears, Mousy, we do. Please, shouted Despereaux. Oh, poor Despereaux. That's Rimorso, right? Botticelli. I think that's his swinging his watch thing that he swings. Despereaux, trying to ignore the other rats. Ooh. Little friend, said Botticelli, little Despereaux Tilling, I promise you, and I will keep that promise. The rat stopped. Look ahead of you, he said. What do you see? Despereaux opened his eyes. Light, he said. Exactly, said Botticelli. Light. Chapter 49. What do you want, Miggery Sow? Again, reader, we must go backward before we go forward. We must consider for a moment what had occurred with the rat and the serving girl and the princess down in the dungeon before Despereaux made his way to them. What happened was this. Roscuro led the Pea and Mig deep into the dungeon to a hidden chamber, and there he directed Mig to put the princess in chains. Gore, said Mig, she's going to have a hard time learning her lessons if she's all chained up like. Do as I say, said Roscuro. Maybe, said Mig, before I lock her up, her and me could switch outfits so we could start in already with her being me and me being a princess. Oh, yes, said Roscuro, certainly. A wonderful idea, Miss Miggery. Princess, take off your crown and give it to the serving girl. The princess sighed and took off her crown and handed it to Mig. And Mig put it on, and it slid immediately right down her small head and came to rest quite painfully on her poor, abused ears. It's a biggish thing, she said, and painful like. Well, well, said Roscuro. How do I look? Mig asked, smiling. Ridiculous, he said. Laughable. Mig stood, blinking back tears. You mean I don't look like a princess? She said to the rat. I mean, said Roscuro, you will never look like a princess, no matter how big a crown you put on your tiny head. You look exactly like the fool you are and always will be. Now make yourself useful and chain the princess up. Dress-up time is over. Mig sniffed and wiped out her eyes and then bent to look at the pile of chains and locks on the floor. And now, princess, I'm afraid that the time for your truth has arrived. I will now tell you that what your future holds. As you consigned me to the darkness, so I consign you too, to spend your life in this dungeon. Mig looked up. Ain't she gone upstairs to be a serving maid? No, said Roscuro. Ain't I going to be a princess then? No, said Roscuro. But I want to be a princess. No one, said Roscuro, cares what you want. As you know, reader, Miggery Sow had heard this sentence expressed so many times in her short life. But now, in the dungeon, it hit her full force. The rat was right. No one cared what she wanted. No one had ever cared. And perhaps worst of all, no one ever would care. I want, cried Mig. Shh, said the princess. Shut up, said the rat. I want, sobbed Mig. I want. What do you want, Mig? The princess said softly. Ah, shouted Mig. What do you want, Miggery Sow? The princess shouted. Don't ask her that, said Roscuro. Shut up, shut up! But it was too late. The words had been said, and the question at last had been asked. The world stopped spinning, and all of creation held its breath, waiting to hear what it was that Miggery Sow wanted. I want, said Mig. Yes, shouted the Pea. I want my ma, cried Mig into the silence, awaiting world. I want my ma. Oh, said the princess. She held out her hand to Mig. Mig took hold of it. I want my mother too, said the princess softly, and she squeezed Mig's hand. Stop it, shouted Roscuro. Chain her up, chain her up. Gore, said Mig, I ain't going to do that. You can't make me do it. I got the knife, don't I? Before we find out how that ends. Oh, wait. Let's here we go. There's the rat looking on anxiously as the princess and Mig realize they both want their ma's. She took the knife and held it up. If you have any sense at all, said Roscuro, and I heartily doubt that you do, you will not use that instrument on me. Without me, you will never find your way out of the dungeon, and you will starve to death here, or worse. Gore, said Mig, then lead us out now, or I will chop you up into little bits. No, said Roscuro, the princess shall stay here in the darkness, and you, Mig, will stay with her. But I want to go upstairs, said Mig. I'm afraid we are stuck here, Mig. Oh wait, this is the princess. I'm afraid that we are stuck here, Mig, shouted the princess, unless that rat has a change of heart and decides to lead us out. There will be no change of heart, said Roscuro. None. Gore, said Mig, and she lowered the knife. And so the rat, the princess, and the serving girl sat together in the dungeon, as outside the castle the sun rose and moved across the sky and sank to the earth again, and night fell. They sat together until the candle had burned out and another had to be lit. They sat together in a dungeon. They sat and sat. And reader, truthfully, they might be sitting there still if a mouse had not arrived. Chapter 50, in which the princess says his name. Princess! Despereaux shouted. Princess, I have come to save you! The Princess P heard her name. She looked up. Despereaux, she whispered, and then she shouted it. Despereaux! Reader, nothing is sweeter in this sad world than the sound of someone you love calling your name. Nothing. For Despereaux, the sound was worth everything. His lost tail, the trip into the dungeon, the back out of it, and back in again. He ran toward the princess, but Roscuro, baring his teeth, blocked the mouse's way. The princess cried, Oh no, rat, please don't hurt him. He is my friend. Mig said, Don't worry, princess. I will save the Misi. She took the kitchen knife and she aimed to cut off the rat's head, but she missed her mark. Oopsie, said Miggery Sow. Oh my goodness. That's where we're going to stop. We're going to stop at chapter 50. We just finished it. It's so good. So good. All right. Kiss for Lewis. Kiss for Florence. Until next time, my lovelies.